It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the 7th European Film Festival. Before we get into this conversation with the director Sharunas Bartas, I'd like to ask you to please visit the festival website, www.eurofilmfest.co.za, for details about the other films and special activities taking place at this year's festival. So please also follow us on social media at EUFFSA for daily updates. And now I'd like to introduce the director of In the Dusk, Sharunas Bartas from Lithuania, to join me in conversation about this film. The director has an impressive filmography and notable awards. In the Dusk was part of the official selection at the 2020 Cannes Film Festival, and the director also competed in the official selection at the 68th San Sebastian International Film Festival. Sharunas, welcome and congratulations.
Hello, thank you.
Watching your film, thank you, I felt like I was exposed to something extremely harsh and tragic. But at the same time, throughout, I was captivated by a raw beauty and a feeling that was almost meditative. So depicting this time in your country's history. So I'd like to ask, what was your intention behind depicting such stark contrasts when perhaps there could have been many moments in the story that could have been presented quite differently?
Of course, any story might be presented differently. But there are facts which you cannot deny. I mean that Lithuania was in the beginning of the 20th century was passing very hard times. It's on the 1919 it became independent from Russian Empire. Then it was 20 years of independence. Then it was occupied by Soviets for a short time. Then Germany, Nazis, they came and occupied Lithuania, pushed out Soviets. Then in 4 years, Nazis were pushed again back. And all these wars, eventually there were wars. They were coming through that small country, you know. So all that period was very hard for the country. I mean, everything. And however you show it, the facts are facts.
But at the same time, I saw a lot of beautiful moments and a lot of there was just like a resting kind of beauty and calm amongst and within all of that tragedy and horror and poverty and the experience that the people or the characters were going through. And I think that kind of affected me more than the horror. There was that thread of beauty throughout.
You know, it always comes beauty and ugliness comes together, like all you know, two different things of each what you can find. Eventually, Lithuania is a rather beautiful country. So it was not smashed by atomic bomb, so still that nature, still that people who survived and who still lived in their small houses, despite that they lived a hard life by lacking many things and so on because of the period. The world was beautiful, and as it is now.
it just nature continues and everything else happens. That's kind of how I felt, you know. So I'm also interested to unpack something that your producer Janja Krauj revealed about the film, in that when it premiered in Lithuania, it divided public opinion due to its depiction of the partisan movement that was resisting the Soviet occupation. And I'd like to find out, what is your opinion about the way that historic events are traditionally portrayed in film, and how a director might choose to present a country's past to its people and to the world?
There are no tradition, I guess, to show this period in Lithuania, because the first film about it, about that time, it was released maybe 2 years before, or 1.5 years before my film. I mean, it was a kind of just time when several films appeared. The one was film which was released long ago in Soviet times, but it was pro-Soviet, so it's a different situation. And there are some also things like partisans in Lithuania. They started to fight at 44, 45, and when again the Soviets came and occupied Lithuania, and they were hoping that after the Second World War, after all that agreements which were found between United States and Great Britain and Soviet Union, I mean the winners of the war, that all the former borders will be restored. So they were fighting that cruelty and actions of Soviet special forces, which were taking people, a bit richer people, or people from science, from so on, from writers, and to Siberia, to gulags, and they had to die there. So they were fighting against that, but the film shows already not 45, 44, 45, it's already 48. And when eventually Soviets refused to go away from, let's say, East Europe, when they started to build or decided to build a wall just direct from straight dividing one big city like Berlin, wall with the machine guns and so on. I mean, just cutting in slices a great big city where, so they were doing things like that. And partisans already were starting to lose their, hope. Also, they were pretty much hunted and pretty strongly, because Soviets were increasing their possibilities to fight against them. They were finding the traitors and so on, and finding the collaborators, because Lithuania, it's another language, absolutely another language. It's another religion. It's not something the same where you can act like in your country. You have to invent all the structure, which from zero, what they did, and finally they extinguished all the partisans. So nevertheless, Lithuanian public wanted to see, probably because it's a very painful moment, they want to see like a partisan who would be a hero, a hero able to really stand and do something against. But that did not happen. I mean, they were all killed.
Mm.
So my choice was not to make kind of uh, not real and funny story. I wanted to go closer to what happened, and mostly we were based on diaries of partisans, which were written in the forests and so on. So at that time, when they were dying, many of them wrote the diaries, and we have them now. I mean, it's possible to read it.
Wow.
They show the real situation. So I went to what I can imagine, the real situation. I could imagine, sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Um, so yeah, you mentioned that Lithuania is quite unique and in its scale as well. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your home country, being a very tiny republic within the region. So what is the landscape of the film industry in Lithuania, and how challenging is it, or how challenging was it to create this film? I know you have an extensive filmography, but it's just something, an insight that we can kind of understand from your context. What is the industry landscape in Lithuania?
It was different in the very beginning. Like several films of mine, they didn't get any support from Lithuania because it did not exist in the beginning of after 1991, when we regained the independence. It didn't exist because the country was in fact, very poor, and that, let's say, fundings and so on for cinema, all cinema, not only making cinema but also distributing cinema and so on. The fundings were growing rather low, and in the beginning, the amounts they could give, they were not so impressive, not so. So the first all of my first films that were made with a co-production with Western countries.
Okay.
And later that amount was a bit increasing a little bit more and more. So in the beginning there were like one film in a year, or one film in 2 years appearing in Lithuania. It was very, very small amounts, smallest. So, and I wanted to make that film maybe 15 years ago already. But that would be the first film when I would talk about something I didn't see by my own eyes. So that meant a lot of investigation. That meant a lot of buildings, constructions of because of all these houses, all these small villages, they don't exist now in the way that you could shoot there. You had to rebuild them, and also every small piece of paper or whatever, or a spoon in the film was manufactured no later than 1948. So it was really a big challenge, and then I was always, year after year, a bit afraid to go in this, But as far as I was thinking about it, as far as it was my tragedy and life of my country, my people, which I also knew and heard from my family, from my grandfathers, great grandfathers, and so on, and they were telling me a lot about that period. So it was normal that I went finally to the result that I have to do this film. So there was a lot of challenges. Yes, it was not easy at all. But there were also 5 countries working with us together, like Latvia, Serbia, Czechoslovakia, Portugal, France. So we both together, we managed to do it.
It was fantastic art direction, and yeah, I really enjoyed the wardrobe, and just a fantastic, brilliant direction. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for your time. I'm going to have to finish this interview, and thank everyone for watching and for your interest. I'd like to remind everyone that the festival is running until the 22nd of November. So head over to eurofilmfest.co.za for more details about the other virtual film screenings and activities. And don't forget to follow the European Film Festival on social media at EUFFSA. Bye-bye, Sharunas.
Thank you, and thank you for a possibility to thank you for inviting me the film to your country, and have good screenings and all the best for the festival.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.